Valve has always, in some form, focused on horror for most of their games. Whether it's the varying waves of zombies in Left 4 Dead 2 and Half-Life, or the horrifying amount of bots in TF2. But honestly, a game that I think perfectly does horror is Portal. After the success of the Backrooms, liminal horror has become a lot more relevant when it's used to market games. But what makes Portal stand out to horror games that market themselves as liminal horror, and eventually the Backrooms itself, is it just sticks to the eerie, silent, desolate locations. I think when liminal horror is done perfectly, it mainly focuses on the emptiness and isolation in large rooms or corridors that are supposed to evoke the idea you've been there before. I think the Kane Pixels analog horror series is a pure work of art and elaborates on the concept of the backrooms in a really creative way. However, this caused the backroom to go in such a disappointing way. What made the backroom such a groundbreaking idea is how simple the concept was. It was just an image of an empty office space, but then like 2 months later, what happens when a dog with no legs goes into the backrooms? When a dog enters the backroom, it immediately spawns on level 9 Gillian, the safest backroom level, and has a one-way elevator to the exit and a free vending machine. It just kinda takes away from the fear factor of being left completely isolated in an empty office space between worlds with no chance of escape. This is your life now until you starve or something else happens. Hear me out here for a sec, but modded Minecraft fails for the exact same reason. Mods like the Cave Dweller that are made to chase you around the mines just take away from the fear factor. And after installing a mod and playing it on a server with friends, but also survival world on my own, I've discovered the most unsettling thing about the experience was the cave noises the Cave Dweller made. In Portal, we play as a test subject thing called Shell, adventuring aperture science solving puzzles in test rooms. I'll leave it there for the plot because as it progresses, the horror becomes more and more apparent. We awaken a small room with a radio repeating music. As we exit, a robotic female voice comes over the intercom telling us we're in Aperture Science facility and we'll be running through tests. I think, honestly, right away, the setup from the game from a horror perspective is perfect. We know nothing about the situation before us. All we know is the voice directing us is a robot, and we have multiple questions like, how did we get here? Is anyone or anything still around in the labs besides us? Anyway, we start solving puzzles and progressively get further and further through until we reach our first portal gun. It's probably worth noting how, considering when this game was made, as well as in general, the amount of coding that would have had to go into developing this game is extremely respectable and impressive. For example, you have to place a portal in a room, then another portal is placed in a different part of the room. So Valve have to code both sides of the map in seamlessly to not break the immersion. And honestly, it succeeds really well. Considering this is an early 2000 games as well, it has a better, more polished mechanics than games of the modern day. Continuing on, we can see lining the walls are many different glass windows and observation deck. Looking over the tests, it really creates a sense of isolation. You're in an echoey, liminal building, seemingly being the only person stranded deep underground here. Apparently being an android according to the only guide and source of context we're given, being a robotic female voice. Obviously we're being played along by something. After acquiring our orange portal gun, the puzzles get progressively harder and harder until one narrows down to taking down turrets with cubes and sneaking around them using portals. However, the infrastructure of this room seems to be a little different. A wall tile is loose, and breaking into the room by shifting cubes, we're able to enter through the panel and The intentionally monotonous, repetitive track and ambience completely stops playing and is replaced by a loud, ominous track, clearly meant to send the message you aren't supposed to be in here. Something is wrong, get out. We saw something we weren't supposed to see. Turning around and there is erratic gravings on the wall left by someone saying the cake is a lie. Wonder what that means. This was left by a character known as Ratman or Doug in the comic tie-in to Portal, where a doctor who suffers from schizophrenia was left isolated with nothing but a companion cube. More on that later. And shows how he went clinically insane after being left isolated from everyone and everything in Opposite Science. We continue on and are gifted with a companion cube to complete the next few trials on. And honestly, call me overanalyzing everything, but I think the implementation of the companion cube is one of the greatest ideas I've seen in the game. The companion cube is supposed to symbolise how both us as the player and Shell has been left isolated during the game. The only enemy and ally we've been going up against is a robot, neither of which having our back in any of the situations. Now being given a companion cube, we are supposed to get attached to it, so after completing the trials, we are then tasked with burning the companion cube to move on. The thing that makes this implement so interesting is that most people that play the game will be at least hesitant while burning the companion cube. We've been told to carry out this empty heap of metal around the test. Just because of how alone we are in the empty hallways, we build a relationship with the companion cube because there's nobody else to connect with. So when the cube of metal that has done absolutely nothing has to be destroyed, we feel sad about it, symbolising how grim and miserable it would be to be stranded down in the depths of Aperture Science. Anyway, after wrapping up on all our tests, we take a lift to the supposed party with cake and friends and fire, apparently, because as soon as we turn a corner, we get closer and closer to a fire pit. GLaDOS saying goodbye as robotically as everything else. Since we obviously don't want to die, we take a portal out of there and carry on out of the control from the robot's voice, telling us a range of different points, juggling between guilt tripping us about a party, bullying us about not being a good person, or just telling us we're not going the right way. I think the most chilling part about all of this is every time she says hello, or is someone there to show it's like she wasn't fully expecting us to go out of bounds like this. After all the sections of really muted horror we've seen, the puzzles take a back step and, through ideas, become a lot more grim. We explore an extremely run-down, desolate part of Aperture Science we clearly weren't meant to see, going against the voice that has guided us, the only ally we've had talking to us over the game, betraying us, treating us like another one of the robots to immediately discard when we're finished, possibly foreshadowed by the companion cube's nearly immediate discard after the test. We delve deep underground, turrets being sent down after us every step of the way, trying to take us out before we discover something the robot doesn't want us to see. As we continue down, we take out more and more turrets and we reach more office spaces. A glass window finally confirming to us we are deep underground, nothing but caves surrounding a long hallway similar to when you're entering an airplane or something, leading to the robot. This is GLaDOS. I know her name is probably one of the most well-known scary artificial intelligences in media, up there with normal AI and in real life, but we finally reach her after everything. However, as she starts monologuing, an emotion core breaks off from her. After we destroy it, it unfortunately turns out that was the only thing preventing her from gassing us out, do you smell popcorn style. She finally reveals as well how she used this toxic gas to kill every last scientist in Aperture Labs, explaining all of the empty observation rooms. This used to be a thriving laboratory filled with scientists running tests, but the enemy we're facing was able to take all of them out in one swoop with gas she's currently using on us. We have to dash fast to take out all of GLaDOS' emospheres to finish her off before her gas finishes us off. I think from a gameplay point of view, this is an amazing final boss. It takes everything we've learned through the game, portal-wise, having to dive through holes to grab emospheres, use heaters we used on companion cubes, and aim lasers through portals that send rockets and such to knock off the emospheres. Anyway, after doing so, GLaDOS gets knocked out and destroyed, and we go flying out of Aperture Labs. Wake being dragged back, finally seeing the outside of Aperture Labs. A bright sunny sky. However, we unfortunately get dragged back into Aperture Labs, dropping deep into the depths.